Oh my gosh, how terrible. 25 minutes ago, a poor newborn baby was abandoned in a park near his home. Oh, thankfully Nick Castellanos has stepped up to become the child's guardian, and he'll pay all their expenses until they turn 18. I don't really know why, though. Why does he need to do that? I mean, TJ Watt and CeeDee Lamb already said they would do it. This is a video about Facebook pages that just post lies and try to make money off those lies, mostly off of your older relatives. And a lot of it is AI, a lot of it is just automated in general, and a lot of it is based on templates. And here's what I mean by that. Here's a post from the Facebook page Mets Insider Club with an insider story. This is about 22-year-old waitress Lynn, who didn't realize she was serving MLB superstar Juan Soto. He was very polite at this very fancy restaurant, and at the end of the story, he leaves her a large tip because he's such a gentleman. Of course, these images of him dining at the restaurant are generated by AI. Now, Juan Soto, I'm sure, has dined at a fancy restaurant before, but these are not photos that somebody has taken. A computer made these. This one's from a Braves page called Tomahawk Territory. Everything is basically the same, except this time the waitress is named Lux. And if you think those two waitresses are lucky, wait till you hear about 24-year-old waitress Lily, who had no idea she was serving MLB superstar Freddie Freeman because she's so ignorant. She doesn't know anything about baseball because she's so stupid. But as soon as she received the receipt with the tip from Freddie Freeman, she burst into tears. It changed her life. And would you believe her luck? The exact same thing happened again with Kyle Tucker. I mean, what are the odds, right? What incredible luck. I guess when one MLB superstar does a nice deed, 5 or 10 of them have to follow and do the exact same thing. It's a copycat league. If Nick Castellanos is going to adopt an abandoned baby in a nearby park, Clark Schmidt is going to have to do the same for parody, for competitive reasons, or at the very least, a AI-generated white guy who looks somewhat vaguely in the face like Clark Schmidt. I don't know. I mean, we gotta stop all these people that are abandoning babies in parks. This story from New York Mets Pride really touched me. Brett Beatty transforming the life of an elderly man who works as a trash collector. In full uniform, no less. Everything these guys do is in full uniform. Then again, how much help does one person need? Because as we can see here from Dodgers Faithful, touching news, how Mookie Betts transformed the life of an elderly man who made her living, okay, the gender situation is very fluid here, as a trash collector. Mookie Betts in full uniform helping out. Not just him, what about Clark Schmidt? Clark Schmidt helps trash collectors too. He's the nicest guy in baseball. He does so much good for the community. I mean, this guy should win the Clemente Award. He's adopting babies. He's helping elderly women trash collectors. He does everything while wearing a New York Yankees mirrored jersey. A lot of these athletes are nice anyways. You don't have to write fan fiction to make them sound like good people. You don't have to AI generate photos of them doing good deeds. They do a lot of work in the communities. They create charities and raise donations for them. You don't have to fake good deeds, which is why I'm partnering up with the Davies Shelter in my hometown of Rome, Georgia for this video. I worked here. This was the last job I ever had before I became full-time foolish. It is a homeless shelter for both men and women. I worked at the men's shelter that takes care of 16 men. The women's shelter takes care of up to 8 single women and 4 women with children, but it's not just a place for you to lay your head. It's not just a bunch of cots on a gym floor. Like, this is a very, hands-on, really bespoke plans to combat homelessness. Everyone has different reasons they became homeless, right? Everyone has different issues that are preventing them from being housed in the future. This really seeks, on a case-by-case basis to fix that. It's very intensive, and they need our help. And they did a lot for me. They did a lot for me when not a lot of people believed in me. Before I became Foolish Baseball, before I became the Foolish Bailey you see today, I was, a recent college grad without a lot going for him. And this was a really edifying experience for me. And they need our help. And I'm certainly going to be donating. But I hope you do too. So there will be a donation link at the top of this video. If you support me, if you support what I do, please feel free to support my former employer in their time of need. This is not something I'm making money off of. This is all 501c3. You can deduct it from your taxes or whatever. Go ahead and make a donation. It says here a gift of $250 or just over $20 a month. Covers a week of shelter for a guest and sets them on a path to growing something better. And if you do follow through on that link, it means a lot to me, no matter the amount. And if you feel like it, you can put in honor/in memory of me, Foolish Bailey, or Foolish Baseball, or Bailey Freeman, or whoever you know me as. Just let them know that my audience sent you. I just got the ball rolling with a $250 donation of my own, and for the rest of you, again, the link will be in the description below if you want to help out. Okay, that was your real good deed of the day. Now back to all the fake good deeds that are going around the internet. Dansby Swanson, nice enough guy. I'm not saying he's not nice enough to do this. I'm just saying it didn't happen. I'm saying these pictures aren't real. I'm saying this story isn't real. Dansby Swanson did not buy a small diner he used to eat at in college and turn it into some sort of, program to feed homeless people in the area. He's a nice guy. I'm not saying he can't do that. I'm just saying it didn't happen. And I'm saying Mookie Betts didn't do it either. I'm sorry, he just didn't. It says that back in college, Mookie Betts used to eat at this diner on credit. He didn't go to college. He was drafted out of high school in Tennessee. Here's the thing about this type of posting. It's a total numbers game. I mean, most of these won't catch on. Most of these will only have maybe a few comments that say, oh, this is fake or this is spam or whatever. But sometimes it really can go viral among all your older relatives on Facebook. This got 48,000 likes. I have been doing content creation full-time for like 5 or 6 years now. I've never made a video that got 48,000 likes. But this post did, that probably took, 1 second to write the script on and 5 seconds to generate the images. 1,900 comments, 4,000 shares. Like, this got around. And then you start to dig into the comments of these viral posts. And it always starts first and foremost with a post from the Facebook page itself, posting a link to the full story, quote unquote. But then you get reactions from real people, and the majority of them find the story to be true or believable. This person says, Mook, you are my favorite, my hero, incredibly generous, a quality man, a heart of gold. Some people know it's fake, but not the majority of people. This person says, not only a great baseball player, but pays attention to society. This person says, hey, this is the same story in Diner that was said about Paige Beckers. As far as people who actually read this stuff and believe it go, I don't want to turn this into an exercise of victim blaming, right? I think there is a lot to be said about media literacy. I think there's a lot to be said about not believing everything you read online or hear on TV. Yet at the same time, I wonder if this is somewhat victimless in the sense that they completely forget that they have seen a thing as soon as they scroll on to the next thing. Like, they read, an article about how Nick Castellanos adopted an abandoned baby from a park. Do you think they go out on their everyday lives and tell people that? Do you think they flip on the Phillies broadcast the next day and they think, oh, that good guy Nick Castellanos? Or do they just forget? Do they just completely forget it ever happened because they weren't really paying that much attention in the first place? I just don't know. Do the platforms themselves owe it to us to moderate their platforms more? I went to Facebook just now and I typed in Bobby Witt Jr. and the very first result was a fake story about Elon Musk and Bobby Witt Jr. That did not happen. It was the very first result. To some extent, I would say it's a little bit of a slippery slope because I do still believe in free speech. I don't know if free speech includes, purposeful misinformation, but also the line could be blurred there between, what is this and what is parody? What is this versus satire? I don't know if I necessarily want our tech overlords to decide that. I'm not defending the slop. I'm just saying that all parties involved bear some responsibility, but not all of it. Because some of these are just getting crazy numbers. 14,000 likes, 2,000 comments, 1,500 shares. They can't all be bots. This is about Jared Goff turning down a $270 million offer from Elon Musk. He says, keep it and spend it on something that actually helps people. And then just, the very next day, Lamar Jackson says the exact same thing to the exact same sort of virality. Keep it and spend it on something that actually helps people, and people believe it. You get into the comments and you see all these comments, people taking what they see about Lamar Jackson at face value, and they like it. They like Lamar Jackson, and that's what kind of makes me think every now and then that this is kind of victimless, right? Are they going to go around telling their coworkers, oh, Lamar Jackson turned down $270 million from Elon Musk, did you see that? Or are they just going to sort of keep the feeling to themselves? Not the facts, not the actual things that the story was saying, but the feeling of liking Lamar Jackson. A feeling they already had. This is all like targeted regional stuff. This is for Baltimore Ravens fans. Not to fly too far off the handle here, but I really do think we're living in, to some extent, a post-truth society. What's true or not doesn't really matter anymore. What matters is how it made us feel. Certainly attempts to fact check and find objective truths just don't work, right? Snopes, PolitiFact, Twitter community notes, they don't work, right? Because that's not really what matters to us. What matters is how it made us feel. At the very least, I think the search for objective truth often is fruitless, right? You see, news platforms advertising themselves as, oh, we're the unbiased one, we're the center one. You don't want to live in that echo chamber. Here's the facts for both sides, and you decide, I don't really think that exists. I don't really think an unbiased opinion of anything exists, and to some extent, I think that's totally okay. It's all kind of hard for me to wrap my head around because I believe all those things, and yet I see a post like this and say, well, that's a lie. And it is a lie. It's not true. None of it is true. And people can catch on to that. This is from New York Yankees fan club. This is the same sort of Elon Musk prompt, but with Aaron Judge. And it's just, 15 likes, 7 comments saying that it's fake. Same thing with this one about Elon Musk and Ronald Acuna Jr. 99% of the time, I would say these posts just kind of fall flat. They don't get the level of virality that the platform is looking for, and yet sometimes it hits, and it hits on Max Muncy for some reason. I don't know why Max Muncy and not Ronald Acuna Jr. and not Aaron Judge, but when Max Muncy turns down Elon Musk, it means a lot to some people. And again, I think every party is to blame here a little bit. I blame the platforms that enabled the slop and incentivized the slop. I blame the people and the technology that creates the slop. And I blame the people that believe the slop and continue to demand that they consume the slop. I think everyone's at fault. The only people that aren't at fault, the only people I think are the victims themselves are the athletes, right? The athletes that have to deal with, AI-generated images of themselves doing things that they didn't actually do. Elon Musk did not meet with Freddie Freeman at, quasi-Dodger Stadium-looking ballpark and shake his hand. It just didn't happen, These are lies. And sometimes people take it upon themselves to say that they're lies, and I appreciate it, and yet at the same time, they are still engaging with the post. They're giving the post what it wants. The reason these pages and the reason these posts exist is the same reason as just about anything exists. It's because it makes money. Facebook pays out money based on, creating engaging posts that keep people on the website. It's not that different to what I do on YouTube, right? I try to create an engaging video. Hopefully you're still watching. Hopefully YouTube showed you an ad at some point. That makes YouTube money. That makes me money. This is sort of the same game. It's just that all of it is lies, right? But what they do is there's another mechanism to make the money. They post sort of what is a teaser for their article, and then as a pinned comment, they link you to a website like this one called, and I'll do my best here, tintinfan.online, a very legit news source, I'm sure, to tell you stories about the 22-year-old waitress who received a $900 tip from Cardinals superstar Nolan Arenado. And when you go to that website, which I would not necessarily recommend you do at all, that's why I'm looking at a screenshot of it right now, you will see just a really unorganized blog that just contains all of the posts that they've been making to post on various Facebook pages in the hopes of gaining engagement, right? And so you can see essentially what are all the fake articles and also maybe even some real ones, right? Antonio Brown wanted for an extremely dangerous crime. That is real. That is something that is going on. That is something that is occurring. And you scroll down here on this website, and as you can see, 3,334 pages. So that with 10 articles per page, that means this website has posted 33,000 articles. And I went back to the very first page, which is, they're doing, I guess, a bunch of, Diddy stuff. I guess that's what was getting engagement at the time. And this website's only been up since October. So this website is less than a year old and has posted 33,000 some odd, articles, all of which have probably been posted by multiple Facebook pages multiple times in the hopes of drumming up that type of engagement that you can make money off of. And you might say, oh, well, what does this website even exist for? I mean, the money is to be made on Facebook. They're trying to get money a second time because this is a screenshot of the website with ad block on. Here's it with ad block off. Here's all the great products. This is what it's all about. Everything you see, all the lies, all the misinformation, all the technology, generating fake images of athletes, all the prompts of just sort of, create a story and fill in the blank with X star athlete and post on this page. It's all about ad money. That's all this is. It's all about ad money. So based on the URL, what is essentially happening is there is I imagine, small group of Vietnamese people that are creating these fake stories on fake pages in an attempt to get ad money from Americans. And they're playing an interesting game in that, because I know from my own personal experiences that, ad clicks and engagement from, say, an American audience is worth a lot more than, the same amount of clicks from an audience from a country like Vietnam, where the GDP per capita is 1/15 of what it is in the United States. So they're playing an interesting game, right? Creating content that is fake, that appeals to Americans to get an American click, to get American ad money, and yet live off of, the relatively low cost of living in Vietnam. They're just trying to make a living at the end of the day. The way they're choosing to do it is to lie to Americans. And this isn't just sports stuff, right? This is the whole internet now. A lot of the internet is just semi-automated, processes to create or aggregate content. A lot of it emanating from, countries that are a lot poorer than the United States, where, those people have a lot more to gain by getting a few, ad clicks from people from the United States. They create content that is either supposed to appeal to people from the United States, or like rage bait or engagement bait people from the United States. And that's how they make their living, and that's a lot of the traffic on the internet now, not just on Facebook, but on a lot of other social media websites. This is a business operation. Here is a network I found. It's just 12 pages. I'm sure this exists for all 30 teams, but here's 12 teams that have a page that links to that Vietnamese website that generates, fake stories about all the star players. And they get, 5, 6, 7,000 followers per page, and maybe 1 in 100 goes super viral, and they make a good amount of money from Facebook engagement and also, ad viewership on their own website. That is the business. And what this network of Facebook pages is doing is just giving the people what they want, right? This wouldn't exist if we didn't have the demand for these types of stories, for this type of fan fiction, really. And we've seen some ones that have, sort of a positive sentiment, stories about buying a diner and using it to serve homeless people, stories about leaving a nice tip to someone in the service industry. But there's also ones that have sort of a culture war element or a politics element to them. Here's one that is a fake news story about Austin Riley announcing his refusal to celebrate Pride Month. He says woke doesn't deserve to be celebrated. And you might say, hey, is that going to be a problem for like his boss, GM Alex Anthopoulos? No, he actually supports it. And he said the following quote, and he said it mostly in caps. When he said this quote out loud, he said it mostly, with those words beginning with capital letters. I don't know exactly how he did it, but he said, and I always say this too, he said, on the field, the focus should be on baseball, not woke. It's not called woke ball, it's called baseball. Regardless of your opinions on Pride Month, regardless of your opinions on the nebulous concept of woke, you have to admit this is a lie, right? These are stories that didn't happen. You might have wished they happened, but they didn't happen. And yet people read them, and Braves fans, I guess in particular, really like this story. This story appeals to them. Here's a post that's not from a faceless, AI-generated Vietnamese conglomerate. This is from the Hodge twins. They are right-wing conservative influencers, and they are fairly popular in that space. And they post the same thing. Aaron Judge boycotts MLB Pride Night. It's a very similar quote to that of Alex Anthopoulos. On the field, people should be focusing on baseball, not woke. That's right, outfielders. Work on hitting the cutoff man. Stop thinking about critical race theory and whether there are enough POCs in Star Wars. Crucially, though, despite this being totally fabricated, despite this being essentially the Hodge twins lying outright, blatantly to their audience, the engagement is there. 46,000 likes, 2,000 comments, 2,000 shares. It doesn't matter that it's not real. What matters is the way it made them feel. Regardless of where you're at on these issues, the posts about them just aren't real. And I really hope we're still at a point in society where we can say, hey, that's not real. Even if I agree with it, even if I disagree with it, there are things that are real and there are things that are not real, and this story is not real. I don't want the takeaway of this video to be that we're cooked, right? That we're cooked as a society, that we're stupid. I don't think what we're seeing in this world is necessarily a cause of societal rot. I don't think it's making people any worse than they already are. I think it's just sort of a symptom. I think this is just a case where people are giving other people what they want, right? So I think the demand for that is the issue, not so much the consumption of slop. And I totally understand the optics here, right? Oh, look at this smarmy guy. We know what he believes in. We know what he's about. Lives in a city, blah, 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 blah. And he's just here lecturing about, oh, all you stupid people are getting fooled, and I'm smart, and you're stupid, and you got tricked online, and I never got tricked online in my life, except for that one time I clicked a phishing link and got my entire channel hacked. The point is, we're all walking around our little world with our little ideas in our little head, and those ideas about how the world works could be true, it could be false, or it could be neither, right? There could be no objective truth that exists. I mean, the practical lesson here is that if you see a story involving Paul Skeens rescuing a litter of puppies from a fire, it's probably not true. It probably features images and text that are generated by AI for engagement. Yet at the same time, I'm also recognizing, hey, if you're watching this video, then you probably don't have that problem with misinformation in your day-to-day life.